Hey everyone, and welcome to the part 2 of the intrinsic functions based on CloudFormation. Now in the earlier video we were discussing the basics about functions, and we also looked into the function of get attribute as well as function of join. Now in a very simple terms, function contains the logic to do a specific job. Now the main importance of function is that you don't really have to worry about how will you write logic to join two specific stanzas. You just use the function at the right place and let function do the job for you. So continuing our journey with the CloudFormation functions, in today's lecture we'll go ahead and discuss about few more functions which are available in CloudFormation. So if you remember, we had discussed about function join as well as function of get attribute. However, these are not just the functions which are available in CloudFormation. In fact, in CloudFormation, there are a lot of functions which are made available, which actually fulfills various kind of use cases. So there are more functions. These are conditional functions where you have and, equals, if, not, or. So these are condition based functions. Then you have a function of select, and along with that you have few more functions which are available. So in today's video, let's discuss about few of the functions. We'll be primarily discussing about the function of base 64. We'll also discuss about function of get availability zones as well as the function select. So let's get started. Now, function of base 64, as the name suggests, is basically it encodes the data into the base 64 format. Now, lot of AWS resources, specifically, let me give you an example of EC2 user data. It requires the whatever commands that you type, it has to be in base 64 format. So ideally, there are only two ways in which you can do that. First, you write whatever commands that you need in user data. You go to a base 64 encoder tool, you encode into the base 64 format and you pass it to the user data. Or the most simpler way is you just use the function of base 64, and within the value field you just pass the commands that you want to pass with the help of user data scripts. So let me give you one of the example of this. Now if you look over here within the EC2 instance, so this is the AWS EC2 instance within the user data, and within the user data you see the accepted is the base 64 encoded my user data. So this is one of the requirement. Now in the CloudFormation template that we were deploying in the last lecture, now if you go into the output, let me open this output, and you see the PHP application is configured. Now you might wonder how exactly this PHP application is configured, and the answer to this is it is configured to the EC2 user data. Now EC2 user data, if I quickly open up the template, we already know that in order to pass the EC2 user data, we need to have a base 64. So if I quickly search based on base 64, you see there is a user data, and within the user data you have a function of base 64, and after base 64 you are actually pushing a lot of scripts related to the user data, and this is where the base 64 function plays in. So this is it about base 64. Let's go ahead and understand about few more functions. So the next function that we will be discussing is function of get availability zone. So this specific function, what it will do is it will return list of all the availability zones which are part of a specific region. Now in AWS, every region have a different availability zone. So US East 1A might have 6 availability zone. However, the AP South 1, which is Mumbai region, might have just 2 availability zones. So whenever you run this specific function, it will basically give you a list of all the availability zones which are present within a region. So the syntax is very simple. You run a function of get availability zone and you specify the region for which you want to get all the availability zone list from. So let's look into where this function proves to be useful into. So I have a simple script over here, and this script basically a CloudFormation template which creates a subnet. Now the subnet CIDR is 10.0.0.0/24, and we have to specify the VPC ID. So let's do one thing. Let's go to the CloudFormation console, and we are now into the VPC dashboard. So let's create a sample VPC. I'll say 10.0.0.0/16, This is the CIDR block. I'll put it over here, and within the name tag I'll say get easy, and I'll click on yes, create. Perfect. So this is our VPC which is created. Now whenever you go ahead and create a subnet, you have to specify the availability zone. So this is one very important factor. So now what we will do is we will take the VPC ID. Let me take the VPC ID and I'll go to my text document and I'll put the VPC ID over here. Now I want to create a subnet. This is the CIDR, and the question is in which availability zone I want to create a subnet into. And the answer is I want to create a subnet into the availability zone 2nd, which is US East 1B. So I'll put 1 over here. So if you just important to remember that within the US East region, let me quickly show you. When I do a create subnet, there are 6 availability zones which are present over here. So these are the 6 availability zone. It starts from 0. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. So these are the 6 availability zone. Now I want to create this subnet in the availability zone US East 1B. So this is the availability zone that I want to create my subnet into. So as you know, the number conventions goes with 0. So this is 0 and this is 1. So I'll specify 1 over here. So this is where 1 is specified. And there are 2 functions which are used, function select and function get easy. So this specific function, so this function block get easy, and we are specifying US East 1A. So this function will basically retrieve all the availability zones which are part of the US East 1A region. So it would be US East 1A, you have 1B, you have 1C, 1D, 1E and 1F. So these are all the availability zones which this function will retrieve. Now, which availability zone we want to work into? So now I say I want to work with availability zone 1B. So I have to select this availability zone from the entire list. And this is the reason why I have function of select. Now within the function of select, I am passing a parameter 1, and this will basically from the list, it will select the first region. So this is the 0 and this is the entry 1. So this will select the region associated with the first entry, which is US East 1B. So what I'll do, I'll save the script and we'll run this in CloudFormation. So when you run this in CloudFormation, ideally what should happen is a subnet should be created in the region of US East 1B. So let's try this out. So I'll go to CloudFormation console. I'll do a create stack. I'll select the get easy template. I'll name it as get easy. Perfect. So it is creating a subnet within the VPC CIDR that we have selected. So let's just wait for a moment. Perfect. So our CloudFormation template has been executed successfully. So now within the VPC dashboard, let's basically go to the VPC and let me refresh. Within the list, I'll select get easies, and within the subnet, there should be one subnet which is created, and this subnet should be created in the availability zone US East 1B. And this is what the function of get availability zone and the function of select is all about. So now if we explore few other functions, so there are condition based functions which are also available in the CloudFormation. So condition based function are basically it's like and, if, not. So those are basic programmatic conditions. So if you look into the function of if, this function of if basically helps us in lot of environment use cases. So for example, you have a function of if and you have a production, you have C4x large and you have T2.micro. So what this basically will do, if the environment is of production, Then you have c4.xlarge which will be selected if the environment is not production. So if not production, then t2.micro will be selected. So this is a function of if. Now along with that, there are various other functions like and, not, or, and they have a simple use cases. So what we can suggest you is there is a great documentation related to intrinsic functions which you should be reading, and this is the link for the same. So these are the basics about the CloudFormation functions. I hope you understood what functions are all about, and in exams you should know in high level overview about what the functions are all about. We discuss about some of the important functions which you should remember. Since these are the MCQ based questions, your ability to write CloudFormation will not be tested. However, the ability to read the CloudFormation template will definitely be tested. So this is the reason why you should be able to read the basic CloudFormation templates. So this is it about this video. I hope this has been informative for you. And in the next video, we'll be discussing about the CloudFormation parameters. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.